Welcome to Around the World in Events, connecting ideas, news and trends from across the world. We have so much to learn from different cultures, organisations and professionals, but we often stick to what we know and are familiar with. With Around the World in Events, we're connecting the dots from across the globe, bringing you ideas to inspire, excite and learn from. Today we welcome Dillon Jearey, CEO of Kilowatt AV and successful strategy and company coach. He joins us in our very first episode of Around the World in Events, which is focused on the COVID-19 situation. Kilowatt AV has been around for 13 years and has been known in the event community for its impeccable service delivery and innovation. From technical event production to manufacturing, they really are the live event specialists in their region. South Africa at the moment, as we record this, has 58,000 coronavirus cases, 1,284 deaths. We've got 24,000 active cases. Thanks so much for joining us, Dillon.
Thanks very much, Libby, for having me on the show, and very impressive that you've researched all the stats. I had them written down here, so well done.
Are they matching up?
South Africa. Yeah, I think just the last one is our sort of total population is around 58 million people, of which I think around maybe 4 or 5 million South Africans are living in Australia.
Oh, well, you have to come over and visit us soon. Come and join us.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So, Dillon, what does this talk us through what your business was like pre-COVID?
Absolutely. So Kilowatt, in its original founding form, which is Kilowatt Audio Visual, has been around for 13 years. We started in 2007, which ironically was the first year the iPhone was launched. And just think how much the world has changed since then. And we're seeing the world change now again. We were predominantly, or are predominantly, a production assistance company and a technical equipment rental company. So we do support services for the live events industry. But what made us unique is that we started our business with very little capital and we weren't able to buy any equipment. And we soon realized that equipment is actually just a commodity. Anyone with money can buy the same equipment. And so what made us unique and stand out is that we would use that equipment in ways that other people weren't. And we were very connected to our customer and what their outcome was, what it was that they were trying to achieve for their brand. And so we would work very closely with them to help them achieve that. And I think that's what made us different, you know. And so I would still say that's one of our specialities, is that we're incredibly creative and we work very closely with the customer to make sure that their business does better. You know, if their audience can have better takeaways and have a better experience, their business does better. And if their business does better, our business does better, which led us to our company vision, which is to be audience activists. So we really have this culture of fighting for our audience to have the best possible experience.
Yeah, wow. I mean, I know I've seen some of the work that you've done before and the way that your business is sort of scaled to support your customer base, and it's super impressive because you work in both exhibitions and also the experiential market and so many different spaces, don't you?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, you know, when I got into this industry now almost 20 years ago, it was like slide projectors and multiple slide projectors for presentations. And then we kind of went to like the stage in the center with 2 fast fold screens on either side set up. And then I think customers started realizing that in order for them to really stand out, they needed to become more creative. And so in 2012, we started a manufacturing division that designed and produced stage sets, exhibition stands, consumer engagement tools, consumer engagement games, and activations. And that's really, I think, that also set our company apart from a lot of our competitors, is that we were able to help customers really stand out by having a custom stage or by having custom props. So that's been the second part of our company.
Yeah, awesome. No, I love it. So obviously this is about COVID. Now in Sydney, I can tell you the exact day and time that our industry fell over. What happened in SA? What happened over where you are? What was the defining moment, and what did the restrictions look like?
So look, I mean, we were actually set up to have one of our best years ever. And more specifically, we had some very big international work for the end of April, which is typically when things start going into winter and start getting a bit quiet for us. We do a fair number of events a year. We do somewhere between 600 and 700 events a year. And on the 12th of March, we did our last event, and it was a big corporate event. And we could see, we didn't even know if that event was going to go ahead. And so around a week later, we shut down our company. And about another week later, on the 27th of March, the country went into lockdown. And I'm an eternal optimist, and I'm such a positive person, and I'm also a strategist. So we immediately got together the leadership exco team, and saw this thing as being a 3-month challenge. And so completely in denial, completely getting it wrong. And I was like expecting us to go away for 3 months, be in lockdown, and we would come back sort of end of July, August, we'd be very busy quoting. And by September, we'd be killing it again because everyone would want to get their brand out there again. And boy, was I wrong.
Yeah, I must say I had a really similar experience. I'm like, the worst case scenario will be June, we'll lose 50% of our revenue. And, like 2 days after, on the 13th of March, it was here, which is the day after you. We're like, oh my gosh, you just couldn't make it up, could you? Like, there was just no seeing it coming.
No. Absolutely. I mean, never in 13 years of having a business have I experienced anything like this. Typically, even through the 2008 financial crash, our business grew exponentially because brands and companies were doing anything to make a sale. So there were more team building, there were more product launches, people were just pushing events to help make a sale. And this was completely the opposite. This was the first time I've ever experienced like events shut down completely. And we then went back and revised our strategy to a worst case scenario plan because we still don't know when we're going to go back and what the events industry is going to look like. And so currently that plan is to make our cash last till February next year. And we only see events coming back February next year. And now we're starting to see green shoots, and there may be some events that will be allowed sort of around December, but our strategy is still based on this worst case scenario of us only coming back in February next year. And then we still don't have any idea of what the events industry is going to look like.
Yeah, it's just you really can't guess it. You don't know what sort of restrictions are going to be in place. What are you doing now? I mean, I've seen some really cool stuff that you've been doing. I mean, obviously your business is very different right now than what it was before, and possibly what it's going to be in the future. What are some of the things that you're doing through this COVID lockdown period?
So I mean, just to give you some context again, we're in day 78 of lockdown in South Africa. We're in level 3. As you mentioned, we've had around 58,000 infections and around 1,500 deaths. So we're actually, in terms of numbers, we're in the very low end of the spectrum. And I think our country's done very well to go into lockdown very quickly. We have a lot of people that live in very, very challenging circumstances in our country. And so taking the load off our medical infrastructure was a massive priority. But the other challenge is we're also one of the countries in the world that has a very challenged economy. And so we're having to open up the economy as quickly as we can because people are literally going hungry. And so, for us as a company who had our revenue came to nothing, literally nothing. Like our last invoice was on the 12th of March. We have 60 full-time staff, and we have about 40 freelancers that we use on a regular basis. And we were like, how are we going to keep food on these people's tables? And so for us, we had 2 missions coming out of our strategy summit is we want to make sure that we can ride this wave and capitalize on whatever the events industry looks like post February 2021. And our second mission was not to retrench one single staff member. And so how were we going to do that? Well, through very, very careful management of cash resources and through some more exposure and risk from a shareholder point of view. And then we went back and we had a strategy summit around what our skill sets are and what it is that we can really do. And one of the low-hanging fruit that came through in that session was that we're incredibly good at manufacture and we're incredibly fast at manufacture. And so when we looked at what the need was outside, and we kind of didn't want to get into the masks and hand sanitizer space because it was already so saturated, we started to realize that a lot of people were now working from home, and that a lot of people were living in small apartments and they didn't have the correct setups, and people were sitting on their beds doing Zoom calls for 8 hours a day. And we realized, let's start making furniture for the work from home and educate from home market. And we started designing a range of flat pack furniture that's cut on our CNC machines, that requires no screws for assembly. It's completely flat pack. It's made out of really good quality birch plywood. And we went to market with this, and on the first day, we had 50 orders. Now, the one big lesson we learned again is that skill set does not mean you have a company. We can build an amazing product, but we've never been in the B2C business. We've never done retail. And so essentially, we've built a new business over the last 3 weeks. And we're being schooled quite heavily in how retail works, but the product has been accepted in the market incredibly well. And so slowly, every month, we can now start adding more money to the pot of money that we have to pay our staff that are working.
Wow. I mean, I like, hats off to you, because one, you're in a very different situation, and lots of countries are in different situation, but there isn't that element of government support available to help keep staff employed in your country at all. But you've really committed to being there for your team. Like they obviously are a real family to you, and you've been able to really kind of turn things around to keep them part of that family.
Absolutely. So look, that hasn't been easy. That's probably been the toughest thing for me to do. Is in 13 years, we've never, ever missed a salary payment to staff. And so when we saw, our plan originally was minor cuts. We had more than enough cash to see us through this 3-month initial period that we would be in lockdown. But when we realized that 3 months was turning into 10 months, we had to start salary cuts. We do have some support from our government, but it's very small. We have a thing called a TERS fund, which is a temporary employer relief scheme. But to give you an indication, our minimum wage staff, they receive 298 Aussie dollars a month from that scheme. And our top end staff on the top end of the scale that were, sort of in the 1 to 5% of earning capacity in the country, those guys are earning now $580 Aussie dollars a month from the scheme. So it's severely impacted people, and it's created a lot of fear and a lot of anxiety and a lot of anger. And so I believe that we have a very, very strong culture, and that is showing through now, but it doesn't mean that people are not going through that whole range of emotions, denial, anger, fear, anxiety. All of those things are very real. And so in our plan to make our cash last, we've taken that cash, and of that cash, we've taken a 20% portion and we've allocated that to salaries. And so every month, when more money comes in, that pot gets bigger, and everyone who's able to come in, and you may have been in accounts 3 months ago, but if you're willing to come in and pack furniture now, there's an opportunity for you to make some money. So we're trying everything we can to keep food on the table for people at the very least. And hopefully this will continue as a new business that we add to our group post-corona. We don't see working from home going away. We're seeing it that will be something that increases.
Yeah, I love that. And I was just about to ask that, is this a business that you're going to hold on to long term? And I guess one of the big lessons that I've learnt over this time is that whatever you're working on now should be a business that can sustain itself later as well, because there's so much work and time and effort being put into things that it's really important to kind of keep on top of, make sure that your attention is worthwhile.
Absolutely. And I think the one thing that I didn't mention is we are obviously a tech company as well. And so we are offering virtual event services, and we are doing, all the cool plugins into Zoom and all the green screen work. But we kind of seeing that as quite a threat at the moment for two reasons. Like, we're seeing events companies are majorly upskilling themselves in that area. And we're seeing that, that events companies are adding that to their services, which is a good thing. But where does that leave us as technical suppliers, and technical specialists? And also, the cost, that the revenue generated from virtual events. If we in the past, did an event that generated, call it 100,000 Aussie dollars, now we're generating like 1% of that, through a virtual platform. And so that is a threat that I'm not currently really understanding what that would look like, because I really do believe that events will come back. In what size they come back, I'm not 100% sure, but there will definitely be a blend of virtual and in-person events. And where do we fit in as a technical service provider in that space?
Yeah, good point. And I think that's a great segue into my next question, because thinking about everyone upskilling and going into kind of crossing over, I guess event companies are your customer, and if they're doing something that competes with you, they're more likely to sell that element over spending more money on the technical production. But I'm wondering, are you seeing any other sort of permanent damage to the events industry in your region?
Look, I mean, at the moment, it's completely damaged because there's nothing. But I was listening to an interview with Simon Sinek last night, and he said something very incredible, is that, we're all kind of blaming COVID for destroying the world at the moment and completely disrupting things. And he said that the world has seen this many times. In the 2000s, we saw the tech bubble and, completely wipe out industries. And we saw, sort of acts of terrorism around the world wiping out industries. We've seen Uber completely wipe out the taxi industry. And so this is really something that has come and disrupted us and our space very, very hard. And it's forcing us to think outside the box. And it's forcing us to reinvent ourselves in the event space. And that's something so true. I think that as entrepreneurs, we are problem solvers. And this is the problem that COVID has presented. It's come and it's disrupted our industry, and we will, as entrepreneurs, come up with ways to solve those problems. And that's kind of something to be excited about. And I think that's something to look forward to, and to at least create a little bit of optimism and hope as to how we find ourselves pivoting out of this disruption. And some companies will not make it, and some will come out stronger than ever before. And so, yeah, I think the events industry as we knew it will never exist again. It will never exist in the same way again. What it looks like in the future, I mean, will only just be a guess.
Yeah, I love your optimism, and I think that in times of pressure and stress and change, optimism is really the only option, because you need the headspace to see how you can see through this and how you can grow out of it. I think you're totally on the money. We don't know what it's going to look like. We don't know, what jobs we're going to be turning up to next year. How is this going to develop? There will be some opportunities out there. I mean, what will they be? I don't know. It's that's the question. I guess virtual space and that hybrid events element that we were just discussing is obviously going to be a big one. Anything else you see?
I really like that hybrid space. We've got some events companies, clients that are very forward thinking and they think very out the box. And we did a virtual event last week with them. And what they did is, it wasn't an event on a massive scale. There were people that logged on, but they were families. It was a family event. And so probably about 200 people impacted. And what they did was they prepared pre-packs. Okay, so in those pre-packs, they had like a little cactus, and they had some clothing to wear, and it was a Mexican themed evening, and they had little shots of tequila, and they had all the ingredients to make food, and they had the recipe card. And then it was a joint Zoom call where they had like a top bartender teach them how to mix Mexican cocktail. And then they had a top celebrity chef that taught everyone how to cook their quick meal. And then everyone sat down and had their meal together, and they had entertainment. And then everyone went into breakaway rooms, and they all did an escape room engagement. And it was very well received, and such a fantastic way to engage people in a hybrid form at a fraction of the cost that you would have spent for an in-person event. And so those things are quite exciting. It's quite exciting to see how we will blend sort of virtual and in-person in the future. And that may see a lot of players and a lot of companies come into the event space that previously may not have been able to afford it, may not have been able to afford doing a big event, but now can. And so I think really for us as tech companies is, how do we scale that? And how do we always stay one step ahead of the technology that the event clients have access to, so that we can still be that pillar of technical support that the event client turns to, or the end client turns to help them deliver a remarkable event?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm totally with you there. I think that there will be a struggle. Obviously, having more people into our industry is going to be amazing, but if people are seeing the opportunity to get a similar outcome, where is the money that was spent in live events? Where's that going to be distributed to? Or are those marketing budgets just going to fall down because the economy is not going to be there? I guess that's the question. How do we fill the holes, or is there not going to be holes? There's just going to be less out there for everybody.
Yeah, I think that's a great observation, and I do think economies around the world are going to see, major challenges. But the one beauty about that, again, is the optimistic side of it, is that you're going to see some incredible growth in economies, because they've lost so much. And so I always try and look at that and look at the opportunity on the optimistic side, and realizing as well, like, being optimistic is seeing a brighter future. It doesn't mean that you're not understanding all the challenges that you're facing right now, but it's a good point. It's a good point.
So, obviously you've had the most incredible journey so far, and there is a huge one to go ahead. You're not looking to you're not even planning to think that until February things are going to come back to a bit of normality for you. But I'm really interested to know, from your very optimistic mindset and incredible creativity, what's the number one business or personal lesson that you've learned through this that you are just so grateful for, even through all of the mess and craziness that we're going through?
Cool. So I have a motto that I live by, and that motto is, roller coasters would be boring if they only went up. And if we unpack that, like, no one would stand in a queue for 6 hours at Disney World to get on a roller coaster that only goes up. And it's really when we think we're going to die and we think we're going to fall out of the roller coaster when it's doing a 360-degree loop, that's when we're really having the most fun. And when we get off that roller coaster and we're standing there and we're like, oh, what just happened? But you feel amazing. I think, that's where we are at the moment. We're in this roller coaster. It feels like we're going to die. It feels like we're not going to make it out alive. But in 10 years from now, we're going to look back and we're going to go, man, that changed me so much. It slowed down the pace of life for me. We started having dinners together as a family. We started looking at things differently. We started changing our priorities. My business changed in this way. Or, maybe I even lost my job, and that's what I needed to get out of my comfort zone to reach eternal greatness, or reach the eternal dream that I'd never chased because I didn't want to lose my fixed income, or I was too scared to take a chance because I had a bond to pay. And so I think that we will learn many lessons, and I'm very interested to see what the world looks like in 10 years time, and particularly what it looks like to our children. How is this going to change them for the better, and how does this become a story that we tell, that's part of our life, that we tell on as something that happened and we overcame and it made us a better person.
Oh, I absolutely love that so much, and I think I might steal that from you. I think it's a beautiful way of looking at life. My motto through all this has been there will never be another opportunity like we are now to see what we're really made of. So kind of just really hone in and be creative and see what you're capable of, because it's really easy to give up, but the journey is so much more fun. And
Absolutely.
and talking to people like you just makes me feel so much more excited. So grateful that you joined us today, and really want to follow your journey out of this, because I think what you're doing is so incredible and so exciting. And I want to see what happens in February next year, and how things look for you.
Thanks very much, and thanks for this great initiative. I think that we've always kept in contact and we've always shared business stories because we have similar businesses. But even just this conversation would probably not have existed if it wasn't for COVID. And so I think the fact that you are creating this content and that you are making this information available to people, I think just the sharing of information, the sharing of ideas is something so incredible, because you never know where or when you're gonna find the next bit of piece of the puzzle that will help take you forward or help solve a challenge for you. So I think you're doing a great job in sharing this content and preparing it. I know it's a lot of work, and I feel very honored to have been invited to participate in this. So thank you very much.
Thanks so much, Dillon. It's great. Love sharing ideas, and this journey is great to be on with you. So thank you, and we'll definitely catch up again soon.
Thanks, Libby. Cheers.